Low sell. Demonstrate an understanding of how objectives are developed in the context of the strategic plan. Objectives are developed by translating the broad strategic plan into specific, measurable targets that guide implementation. Once long-term goals are established, management defines objectives that clarify expected outcomes in financial and non-financial terms. These objectives may address profitability, market share, operational efficiency, innovation, customer satisfaction, or workforce engagement. They provide clear benchmarks for evaluating progress and ensure that organizational efforts remain aligned with strategic priorities over the multi-year planning horizon. Well-constructed objectives typically follow the SMART criteria: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. This framework ensures clarity and accountability. Objectives must be clearly defined and quantifiable, attainable within available resources, aligned with strategic intent, and associated with defined time frames. By establishing measurable milestones, organizations create a structured pathway from high-level strategy to operational execution, reducing ambiguity and supporting performance monitoring systems. Objectives also create alignment across organizational levels through cascading targets and resource allocation decisions. Corporate-level objectives are translated into business unit, functional, and individual performance goals, ensuring vertical integration of strategy. Financial plans, capital budgets, and incentive systems are linked to these objectives to reinforce commitment and accountability. Through continuous monitoring and feedback, objectives may be adjusted to reflect environmental changes, ensuring that strategic intent remains realistic and responsive while maintaining long-term focus. Low SAM. Identify and explain the characteristics of well-constructed objectives, e.g., SMART. Well-constructed objectives follow the SMART framework: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Specific objectives clearly define what is to be accomplished, avoiding vague language or broad aspirations. Measurable objectives include quantifiable indicators that allow performance tracking and evaluation. Achievable ensures that targets are attainable given organizational capabilities and resources. Realistic confirms alignment with strategic priorities and environmental conditions. Time-bound establishes a clear deadline or timeframe, reinforcing accountability and urgency in execution. Effective objectives are directly aligned with the strategic plan and long-term goals, ensuring vertical consistency throughout the organization. They translate high-level strategic intent into operationally meaningful targets at corporate, business unit, and functional levels. This cascading process supports coordination and reduces ambiguity in decision-making. Additionally, well-designed objectives balance financial measures, e.g., revenue growth, ROI, cost reduction, with non-financial indicators, e.g., quality, customer satisfaction, innovation, reinforcing comprehensive performance management rather than narrow short-term focus. Strong objectives also promote accountability, motivation, and performance evaluation. Clear ownership should be assigned, specifying responsibility for achievement. Objectives should be challenging yet attainable to encourage high performance without creating counterproductive pressure. When linked to performance measurement systems, budgets, and incentive structures, they reinforce strategic alignment. Furthermore, objectives should be periodically reviewed and adjusted in response to environmental changes or performance feedback, ensuring continued relevance and strategic coherence. Low SN. Discuss the importance of setting and following a set of corporate or organizational core values in delivering high performance. Corporate core values define the fundamental principles and ethical standards that guide organizational behavior and decision-making. They shape culture, influence leadership actions, and establish expectations for employees. Clearly articulated values, such as integrity, accountability, innovation, teamwork, or customer focus, create consistency in behavior across functions and hierarchical levels. By embedding these principles into policies and daily operations, organizations foster trust among stakeholders, strengthen brand reputation, and create a cohesive environment that supports strategic execution and long-term sustainability. Core values are essential for aligning strategy with culture, ensuring that strategic initiatives are implemented in a manner consistent with organizational identity. When strategy and values are misaligned, execution suffers due to resistance, confusion, or ethical lapses. Strong values reinforce disciplined decision-making, especially during periods of uncertainty or competitive pressure. They also support effective leadership by setting tone at the top, encouraging transparency, and guiding trade-offs when competing objectives arise, thereby enhancing organizational resilience. Adherence to core values contributes directly to high performance and sustainable competitive advantage. Organizations with strong ethical cultures often experience higher employee engagement, improved collaboration, and reduced risk of misconduct or reputational damage. Values-based management supports long-term thinking rather than short-term opportunism, strengthening stakeholder relationships and trust. When performance measurement, reward systems, and leadership development programs reflect stated values, organizations create an integrated system where culture and strategy reinforce each other, promoting consistent, high-quality performance outcomes. Analytical planning tools and frameworks. LoSO. Demonstrate an understanding of key planning tools and techniques and explain their limitations. SWOT analysis, situational analysis, PESTEL, and STEEP are foundational tools for evaluating internal and external environments. SWOT identifies strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, integrating internal capabilities with external conditions. PESTEL and STEEP focus on macro-environmental factors such as political, economic, socio-cultural, technological, ecological, and legal influences. Situational analysis combines internal and external assessments to provide a comprehensive snapshot. However, these tools are often qualitative, may oversimplify complex dynamics, and depend heavily on management judgment, potentially leading to biased or incomplete conclusions. Porter's 5 Forces and competitive analysis examine industry structure and competitive positioning by assessing rivalry, threat of new entrants, bargaining power of buyers and suppliers, and threat of substitutes. These frameworks help identify strategic risks and profitability drivers within an industry. Competitive analysis further evaluates competitors' financial strength, strategies, and capabilities. Limitations include their static perspective, limited treatment of rapid technological change, and insufficient focus on collaboration or dynamic capabilities in fast-evolving markets. Gap analysis, scenario planning, and contingency planning support forward-looking strategic decision-making. Gap analysis compares current performance with desired objectives to identify strategic shortfalls. Scenario planning models alternative future outcomes under uncertainty, enhancing preparedness. Contingency planning develops predefined responses to potential risks or disruptions. While valuable for anticipating change, these tools rely on assumptions that may prove inaccurate. Scenario complexity can also overwhelm decision-makers, and overemphasis on unlikely risks may divert resources for more probable strategic priorities. The BCG Growth Share Matrix and GE McKinsey Matrix, GE Business Screen, assist in portfolio management and resource allocation among business units or product lines. The BCG Matrix classifies units as stars, cash cows, question marks, or dogs based on market growth and relative market share. The GE McKinsey Matrix expands this approach by evaluating industry attractiveness and business strength using multiple criteria. Limitations include oversimplification, reliance on subjective scoring, and failure to capture synergies among business units or rapidly changing competitive conditions.